hear you now, and you should be able to hear me now. I got nothing from you. Oh, whoops. Yeah, I'm not getting any sound from you, Abram. Nothing? No? Put the new Abram up. There's an Abram. Oh, there goes an Abram. Hello, everybody watching live. We are trying to get some sound from Abram, and then we will be getting closer to ready. I see an Abram.
Okay, how about now?
I hear an Abram. Hello, friend. Oh, now you went away. You're gone. that that look on your face is exactly how I felt when it happened too. Like, oh, I don't know. I don't know why I've got nothing from you. Nope. So weird that we had it for a second and then it went away. Oh my goodness. Oh, I see Abram.
How about now?
I hear you. Keep talking. Don't let it.
Okay. All right, I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep talking. So I see 10,000. Do I have 9,999? How about 9,998? I see
All right. Well,
I see I see 9,000 is better than red. Yeah.
that's way longer than it lasted last time. So maybe we're in it to win it
Okay.
this time.
All right. I won't touch any wires, but I don't think it's on my end.
Yeah, it's probably on
Um,
Vimeo's end. I I have
yeah.
I have always suspected that it's on their end. I've even let them know that it keeps happening. But for right now, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. How are you?
Huh? Decent, decent. I
It's good.
mean, you know, uh
Audio's
I
live.
thought oh, okay. Never mind then.
I
Decent. Pretty
just
good.
I
Um,
don't I don't care what you say. I just want you to know that it's that the audio's live.
okay. There's not really not much to say. I mean, things
Okay.
are going okay with the family. Went to see my parents today. My father's not doing the best,
Right.
but he's better than I thought. So
Okay.
there,
Well,
so
at least there's
so
that.
there's that. So
Okay.
what I think would be good to talk about is a new a feature. So are you familiar with VLOOKUP in Excel?
Uh mildly.
Okay. So, um, VLOOKUP is the most popular formula in Excel, or the third most after like sum and average. Um, and just this week, after like 20 years of it, Microsoft officially released XLOOKUP, which is the replacement for VLOOKUP, which will change your spreadsheeting life. And and it's VLOOKUP has been very important because VLOOKUP allows you to match disparate pieces of data across different spreadsheets. So if you have a list of addresses, names and addresses in one thing, and names and phone numbers in another, um, you can you can use this to match them up.
Okay. Gotcha.
Um, across a common field. So uh, XLOOKUP is anyway.
Okay.
It's XLOOKUP is a new feature that a lot of people are going to want to know, and I've been exploring it. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's boring. All I can say is that uh, our tutorial, Laptop Mag's tutorial on how to use VLOOKUP, is in their top 5 pages every day for the last 7 years.
Wow.
And consequently, now that there's a replacement for it, I'm scrambling to get up a really comprehensive guide to it for Tom's Hardware
Yeah.
because I want the traffic too.
Yeah, of course.
Um, so so
Yeah.
so I thought it might be an interesting thing to go over. It's something a lot of people, if you don't know about it, you will probably find a use for it in your life.
Yeah, that sounds just fine.
All
Yeah,
right,
I'm good with that.
I can I have a demo spreadsheet here where I can actually show it working. So
Oh, cool.
I actually
have we
set up a demo with dummy data in it.
Can you push screen share through this? I don't know that we've tried since we switched.
Oh, it's a good point. Oh, it says share screen. There's
Okay.
a button.
Great. I was just
So
I don't think we've tried it since we switched. So I wasn't sure if the feature
I think
was
you're
there.
right.
It seemed like it would have to be.
Everything has it, so I didn't.
Yeah.
Never occurred to me that it wouldn't. Okay.
It's
well,
too mainstream to not be there. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
So
We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and it's believe it or not timely because it was added to the latest release of Excel just this week. So,
Oh, wow. Okay. That's that's on the money, isn't it?
yeah, that's why I figured it would be a good topic.
Yeah, sounds good. So for gadgets, the Amazon Ring stuff where they're sending data to Facebook as well.
Yep. I saw you posted that.
Component pricing may make the PlayStation 5 have to be $500, which is the thing that they decided not to do with the last generation and what ultimately killed the Xbox One. The price of .coms is probably going to double over the next decade. And then Google has moved in the same direction as Netflix, and you won't be able to subscribe to YouTube TV through the App Store because of the Apple tax. So,
Yep.
So with the announcement that we're about to make, because I have all the details on it now, we have to make sure that the that the show from start to finish is about an hour 15. So that's going to be
Okay.
That's going to be our new target.
Okay, very good.
That's the time slot they've given us is 75 minutes. So.
Okay, very good.
All right. And then
I will keep that in mind, and I will count on you to make me talk longer if we don't hit it. Usually we'd have to talk shorter, but
75 is just about what we normally do. So that's why.
Yep, that's what I figured.
That was what I asked for from them. Like, what about a weird number? What if it's 75? He's like, yeah, we can make that work. Okay. And now we have an actual target we have to hit. So, all right. So I have this set to record you. Just want to make sure. Yep. So record there, record there, record there. All right. Here we go. Good evening from Pluckett Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Abram.
And we are here with episode 550 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology for Sunday, February 16th, 2020. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Ring's sharing more information, ICANN's raising your website registration, and YouTube TV is canceling some subscriptions. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Mixer, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, or Facebook, a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, or a myriad of other options, on the radio, or our website, plugkitslive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are now 3 ways you can do that. The first is you can join us live Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern at f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us during the show and give your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. Or you can listen on 88.1 WMLD radio in the New York area or through their website Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern. Or you can always subscribe at plugkitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, The Pilch Point, Plug Kits Live Presents, and more. And of course, find all of the ways you can watch or listen. I think that is our spiel. Avram, how are you doing?
Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad's a good place to be.
Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to some big launches and things that we hope will be coming over the next few months. Looking forward to getting to do some cool stuff. We are almost have all the parts in at Tom's Hardware to do our newest build, the RG Baby. Last year we did the RG Beast, and now we have the RG Baby.
Okay.
The RG Beast was the most RGB computer that you could build, so every component was chosen for the maximum amount of like crazy luminance. So it wasn't enough to, obviously everybody's got RGB fans and RGB RGB fans on the CPU and in the case, but we had an RGB graphics card, RGB SSD, RGB power cable, RGB power supply, RGB RAM, every element carefully chosen for the maximum amount of RGB, and then we combined that with peripherals that had the maximum amount of RGB in them. Now that was last year. This year, we're doing a sequel, the RG Baby, which is a mini ITX, so a small case with as much RGB as you can do in a case that size. So I think we're still waiting for a couple of parts to come in, but I think it will be soon that we will get to build the RG Baby, and I'm always proud to take my pro RGB stance. I know it's a controversial topic. Some people just hate RGB and they hate like colorful lights in their computer, but I still don't think we've hit peak RGB. I mean, until I have it light under my skin, it's not. I'm not considering it to be over the RGB trend.
And EL wire built into your clothing's not close enough.
I haven't seen a lot of RGB clothing out there. I've seen clothing that lights up in one color, but I haven't seen a lot that do the true RGB experience of being of cycling through all the colors.
Right. Yeah.
So
there was a company that contacted us for CES, I think last year, maybe the year before, that was trying to launch a line of clubwear that had LED illuminated, essentially frosted fiber optics, right? So that it would glow in strands through the clothes, which was the most clubwear thing I think I've ever seen. But that's about the extent of what I've encountered.
Yeah, I mean, it's why club wear? Why couldn't I just wear it every day, all the time to work?
Yeah. I mean, you can wear club wear anywhere you want. That's totally it's make it your own.
Yeah, I mean, I'll, next time I'm asked to go to a funeral, I'll just wear the RGB club wear.
At
Um,
least it's not like uh, a mesh tank top with EL wire in it or something.
right. I mean, who doesn't want to see RGB lighting? Come on. I mean, nobody wants to see me wear a mesh tank top, but RGB lighting?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so before we get into the news for tonight, let's talk about what happened this week. I know your opinion on it, but it went past what when you posted. Both Facebook and Mobile World Congress have canceled their events over coronavirus fear.
Yeah, that should kind of be that maybe that should have been a topic, but we'll talk about it. My thought is that it seems kind of, I mean, canceling something because some people from China might come seems overreacting to me. I mean, I don't blame Mobile World Congress, the GSMA, which runs Mobile World Congress, for canceling after like 10 different major exhibitors pulled
Right.
out. I blame the exhibitors who forced them to cancel it.
Right.
Um, I mean, at what point? I mean, obviously, this is a very serious epidemic that's going on with coronavirus, and in parts of China, it's definitely a problem. But um, you know, suspending, canceling a show that's in Barcelona, Spain, because there somebody from China might come
Right.
is a little bit much. Now, on the other hand, I have to wonder about a couple of the companies that canceled were Chinese companies, so I'm not really sure what they were thinking. Were they thinking like, we're afraid another Chinese company is going to come and they will give us coronavirus, or were they afraid their own employees had it? I mean, I I don't know, but it just seems to me a little bit. It bothers me. It seems a little bit like xenophobic that, like, oh, I'm afraid that there are companies that are in China and their employees might come to this event when, you know, FYI, there's like a billion people in China, and so if you're worried about anyone who's coming in from that country, I mean, that's a little bit over the top. At the same time, that is where the outbreak is, and the government of China, has been locking down more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you, I'm concerned because I'm in a few months. I'm supposed to go to Taiwan
Right.
for Computex, which is the first week of June, and I'm worried they're going to cancel it. I mean, uh, obviously, you don't want people going and having their running a show and having it be a panic,
Right.
because
Right.
that's going to affect attendance. So you're not going to get a lot of people. And, so I get it. It's just, by the same token, should you then cancel every type of trade show anywhere because you're having a gathering of people?
Right. Right.
You know, should Toy Fair that's not doing Toy Fair New York that's going next week be canceled because somebody who has coronavirus might come? Why have
Right.
movies at the movie theater? Someone might come. Like, why shut down the train? I mean,
Yeah. To
have we really
at what
gotten to
point?
that point?
Right. Exactly. At what point does it? And again, like you said, you understand the organization's decision because so many major players had pulled out. But at what point does it get so small that are we canceling birthday parties? You know what I mean? It's at what point does it become absolutely ludicrous and not just silly? You know?
Right. Right. I mean, I get it. I mean, at a certain point, if it was really that bad in Spain or in the United States that people couldn't go out in the street or whatever, then that's a serious problem. But you know, I don't think we're there yet. Um, that's just me. I'm not a doctor, but one more thing I will add that is very relevant, and I want our audience to hear this. You cannot get, by all scientific evidence, according to the CDC, you cannot catch coronavirus, otherwise known as There are many coronaviruses, so let's be clear. COVID-19, the current coronavirus everyone's afraid of, from packages. If you order something on Amazon or eBay or wherever and it gets shipped to you from China, as happens a lot, you
Hmm.
do not need to be afraid to open your package. You do not need to leave it in your garage for 9 days to make sure that it doesn't have a disease. You do not need to run it under some ultraviolet light. Um, we have an article about this on Tom's Hardware. We talked to actual disease experts. This type of virus does not fare well under the conditions of packages being shipped. Um, it can live on surfaces for a few hours, or look, if you had a were trying to make it live, you could make it live on a surface for days, but under the conditions where you have packages or put on a plane or a ship, whatever, it's not conducive to the virus living. So the recommendation by everybody is that you cannot get COVID-19 virus from a package.
That's important information, and I'm glad that you addressed that because obviously it's going to be a concern for people. So it's good to know that things being shipped from China, especially since so much stuff is manufactured there. Unless somebody's going out of their way to make it dangerous, it's not. It can't be.
Yeah, I don't think they can even do it in that condition. Uh, we had a
Oh,
funny.
okay.
I'll
So
just
it'd
leave it
have to
this.
be
We had a
like a
funny.
it'd have to be like a controlled environment to be able to make it survive on a surface.
I think so.
That
I
makes
think
sense.
so. I mean, I'm not totally aware of what it would take to make it survive on a surface, but so I wouldn't say, like, for example, that if you were in the same room as someone who had it and that you shouldn't be worried about the surfaces a couple of days later. But apparently, the conditions of shipping a package
Got it.
are not conducive. So even if someone who was packing the package had it shouldn't survive. I mean, that is what the CDC says, and that is what a medical expert we talked to said.
Okay,
I
that's good.
mean, and so far nothing has happened. And I also want to note that you cannot get it from bubble wrap. Um, that was a theory that somebody floated to me, that I guess it's not bubble wrap, but the stuff that has air in it that
Uh huh.
is in your package when you get it from Amazon or something, and it's
Sure.
full of air and you can pop it. Uh, that no, it can't live. It can't live in that either. Plus, that gas is usually put in by a machine. So
Right.
someone would have to deliberately blow their nose into it or something,
Right.
and even then, it shouldn't live. So
Okay.
anyway,
Well, that's
that's
all good.
my that that's the knowledge that I'm dropping today.
Fantastic. Well, appreciate that information. And with that, let's get down to some news. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, a tablet, an Xbox One, either S or X, or a myriad of other products such as VR and AR headsets, games for your Xbox or your PC, and a whole lot more, you can find them all at the Microsoft Store. And remember, if you're an active student or military, you can get a discount on almost all the products. And you can find all the deals that are going on right now by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So obviously there's a lot of concern, not about the coronavirus, but about connected home products. We have talked many times about uh, devices, including your TV DVR, potentially becoming part of a botnet and things getting in and being able to grab data. But one of the places where, over the last couple of months, we have started to see some concern is around connected video cameras. The biggest concern maker, I guess, has been with Ring, because at the end of last year, it was revealed that Amazon had been sharing video and doorbell camera locations with law enforcement without notifying users, and in many cases without any kind of a warrant. Just, hey, can we? Yes. And obviously that contributed to some concern about connected home devices. During CES this year, the company announced a new feature for their systems called the Control Center, which gives you the ability to, among other things, opt out of law enforcement data sharing. But the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, it's never what I think that stands for, released the results of a study that showed that Ring is also sharing data with Facebook and Google, whether or not you have an account with them, and there is no disclosure of the data sharing, and there is no way to turn it off. In the stuff that is being shared is time zone, device model, language preferences, screen resolution, and a unique identifier. Everything would have been fine if not for that last little bit, because with a unique identifier now, they can start pairing you up with other things for additional tracking, which is no good. They cannot access the video feed from the cameras. That's a very important distinction from what they've been doing with law enforcement. Facebook and Google cannot see your doorbell camera, but it does. That data does go into their profile, probably of you, certainly of your area, for whatever weird thing that they're doing. Ring has said that they will be adding all data sharing options into the control center, quote unquote, where applicable, which means that there could be other places that we don't know that they're sharing, and things that they're not going to give you the ability to turn off. I don't like this kind of thing, Avram. I don't like it.
What is Ring's motive?
Fair question. No idea.
Ring is owned by Amazon.
Correct.
Why would Amazon want to share data? Amazon is, I mean, I don't know if you would say they were a competitor with Facebook, but it's certainly another company. They're certainly in competition with Google on many fronts. So
between
why would they be
shopping and
sending
cloud,
data?
shopping, cloud, advertising. There's a lot of faces that face off between Amazon and Google for sure.
Yeah, so why would they want their company to give? Also, Ring is a direct competitor to Nest.
Yeah.
I mean, is Nest does Nest reciprocate by sending data to Amazon?
Well, there's a frightening prospect.
It doesn't make any sense. Right. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. This sounds like a bug.
And yet they've admitted to doing it.
I don't understand.
I
don't understand what their motive is.
Ring apparently spoke with CBS News about it, and said that they share this data with other companies, including Facebook and Google. That the EFF was their research was correct, and that they would give the ability to turn off some, where applicable, of that sharing, but First of all, where else are they sharing data? Because it seems like everywhere they're sharing it, what they're sharing is different. At least with law enforcement, I understand. If you look at it from a purely naive, altruistic perspective, okay, I get it. But I don't want video from my home being shared with law enforcement, because just because it's a doorbell doesn't mean that it's outside. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's uncomfortable.
Right. So
Don't like it.
one thing that's one thing that is very interesting is I'm looking quickly at the EFF report, and it seems that they had sent data to Crashalytics, which is which is logging crashes. So I wonder if that's just their way to see whether to measure crashes of the system.
That would make sense.
I mean, just if they're using it for for that purpose, and that's like saying, oh, you can't use you can't I can't have something send me Gmail because I'm giving the data to Google because Gmail is owned by Google. I mean,
Sure,
I
sure.
think sending data to Google versus using data crash analytics data on it that is provided by Google is are two different things.
Sure. But on the Android app, every time you open the Ring Android app, it reports to Facebook that you've opened it to the Graph API, not some Facebook owned analytics system, but to the Facebook
Right.
Graph.
So that one makes no sense.
Right.
But if they're using a Google service, I don't think it's fair to say that they're sending data to Google, right? That's but yeah, why I mean, and there's a legitimate I mean, I don't know exactly what they're saying, what use it was sending things to Crashalytics, but you know, if that is helping them debug the product, um, and then that's a good thing. But
Sure.
obviously, there's no legitimate interest in sending Facebook this information.
Right. Yeah. Which is why for myself I've focused on the oddity that is the Facebook interaction, because there's nothing that makes sense there. And obviously Facebook and Amazon have, some face-offs, but nothing compared to what Amazon and Google have. You know what I mean? Um, though it is strange that they would use um, the the Crashalytics, because I think Amazon has a debugging analytics platform. Because it seems like everybody does at some point. I think they bought one and it's part of AWS. But in fairness, Crashalytics is one of the best on the market. Even if Amazon bought something, it may not be as good. But still,
Yes, and it wouldn't be the first time that a company has owned a product and not used it. Like we've seen,
yeah, for sure.
Samsung. I, I don't know if it's been recently, but we've seen like Samsung laptops that came with another brand of SSD, even though Samsung is a leading maker of SSDs.
Sure.
So, it's not a fait accompli that because your larger company makes something that you're going to use it, because they're different divisions and they have
True.
their own goals.
Yeah. True. But it's the stuff going to Facebook is bizarre. The amount of information, like if you look at some of the data packets, the amount of information that's being shared is and occasionally odd. They're using a lot of different analytics platforms too, which I think is interesting because they're using Mixpanel, I think I saw, and Apps Flyer, both of which are analytics platforms. So it does seem like they're doing a lot of analytics and then sending stuff to Facebook, which is odd. So just another one of those places where, like everything we've heard out of and around Facebook over the last 2 years, every time you turn around, you're like, but what are you doing that for? It seems like Ring is the physical manifestation of that same what are you doing that for mentality that seems to surround Facebook. So I don't know. It's definitely the kind of thing that people should know as Ring, yeah, as the concept of video doorbells become more popular, and the number and the choice, the number of options grows. Know what it is you're buying, I guess, is the, and you and I talk about that all the time. No, it doesn't matter what it is. Know what it is you're buying, and in Ring's case, that seems to be hard to do, which I think is the important takeaway
Yep.
there. So
Yep.
this week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by PureVPN. If you want to keep your browsing history private, if you want to obfuscate yourself from Google and Facebook and some of the things we were just talking about, one of the best ways to do that is with a VPN like PureVPN. And right now, if you sign up for a 5-year plan, you can get it for $1.65 a month, which is way lower than the $10.95 a month, which is retail, which is a really great deal. And it's expiring in just a little while, so definitely check that out. One of the things that's important is that in addition to hiding your browsing history, you can also report that you're somewhere else, so you can use Hulu when you're away. If you're using a service where you can get your local news when you're just out of town, you can still sign in and be able to do all those things. And to get that deal, you can go to pilchpoint.live/purevpn. Now, before we get started here, because I know we now have people who are listening only, and that count is going up. If you are listening only and you would like to see some of the things that Avram is about to show, you can always go to pilchpoint.live and see the video from this conversation. And with that, Avram, what have you got for us tonight?
Okay, I will try. I will try to narrate for everyone for this show and tell. So I don't know about you, but one of the most important tech skills I ever learned was how to use the VLOOKUP function in Excel. In fact, I'm going to go on a limb and say that my job before this one, I think the last 3 or 4 years, the only reason I still was working there, that they didn't get rid of me, was because I could do VLOOKUP and nobody else could. Maybe that's a little bit of exaggeration, but anyway, what VLOOKUP does, and the reason I mentioned this is and VLOOKUP has been around a long time. It is the third most popular formula used in Excel. And by the way, VLOOKUP also exists in Google Sheets and other Excel compatible things like LibreOffice. And what it does is it matches up two disparate pieces of data from two different spreadsheets or two different tabs in the same spreadsheet. So let's say, for example, you had two sheets, and one has a list of employee names and employee IDs. And then somewhere else you had a file or a sheet with employee names and their email addresses. You could use the one common field, let's say the name, and then you could bring all the data together by having it search. Or, another thing that I use this for a lot is looking at getting data about articles that we've written. So let's say we had a list of like 100 articles that we put up this week, and I want to see how much traffic they got. uh, I can take the list of URLs, and then I can download a giant data dump from Google Analytics, which will give me like 5,000 URLs worth of data. But then I can have it use VLOOKUP to match up the URLs I want with their traffic data. Now,
So it's
why
a
do I saying this when this
so it's a spreadsheet version of a SQL join.
correct?
Okay.
Correct. So if you anyone has used databases and you've used a join where you found one piece of common data between two different data tables, um, that is what VLOOKUP does. So VLOOKUP has been around a long time. It's a lovely function, but now, as of this week, Microsoft has rolled out for Excel a feature meant to replace VLOOKUP called XLOOKUP. Uh, so if you have a list of all of your exes and you have a list of all of their phone numbers, you can match them up. I'm kidding. Uh, so you can so XLOOKUP works similarly to VLOOKUP, but it has a few advantages, such as that it uses wildcards. So let's say you don't have an exact match, it can
Okay.
find things with a similar to what you put in. It can find things that are the next largest or the next smallest from what you're searching for, and it allows you to control what the cell will say if you have it if it doesn't find anything, what the not found message is. So let me try and demonstrate this real quick. Um, I'm going to share my screen here. Hold on, I'll move this over. Okay, share my. Okay, so if you see over here, I've got I've got a sample spreadsheet here. These are all fake people. If a real person exists with these names, it's a coincidence, because I downloaded this data from a site called Mockaroo that gives you mock-up data. So I divided into two tabs: employee IDs and addresses. Right, and on the address field we have the person's name, address, email, and IP. But here we have their employee ID. So let's say I wanted to make these were my employees and I wanted to make sure that I combine these two pieces of data. How am I going to do it? So what you do is you type equal, you go into the cell where you want the data to start appearing, let's say cell D2, and like all functions in Excel, you type equal and then the function name X lookup. You put a open parens because that's what you do at the beginning of a function, and then you choose what the cell that you're going to look up against. What is it? What is the common piece of data? Okay, I'm going to choose the last name field. Then I'm going to hit comma, and my next thing is I have to decide what field I'm going to search. So I go into my other into my other tab, which could be a whole other file, not just another tab on the same file, and I select the column that I'm going to be looking at. In this case, I'm going to pick all of column B on my addresses tab. So first thing you do, first parameter you put after XLOOKUP is the thing that you're is the cell that you're checking against, which in my case I was checking against cell C2 because that was the first one with someone's last name. I then go to the tab or file that I want to search, and I select the column to search. Now, then the third thing I got to put in, I only need these three if that's as far as I want to go. It are the columns I wish to return to get back uh, as a result. So I'm going to highlight these last three columns here. I hope this comes through, but I'm highlighting three columns, and I'm going to now hit a close parens, and that's my X lookup. So so that hopefully you can see that with my X lookup here, I have gotten three fields worth of data: the person's email address, their gender, and their IP address, but it really could have been any data. This is a big improvement over VLOOKUP, where you had to do one cell at a time. It's also a big improvement over VLOOKUP because there are fewer parameters you have to put. Um, but we could even take this a step further. Um, as I said, you can decide what to have it say if it doesn't find anything. So I can have it say not not found, right? And obviously it found this one, but if I mess with the data, now it will say not found because it didn't find it, right? Um, Similarly, what if I wanted to not have to be an exact match? Well, if instead of putting the if in the first parameter I just put something with a wild card, like let's say I want to see all last names that begin with S, so I put S asterisk, and then for my fifth parameter, I choose a match mode of 2, which is wild card. Then it will find the first thing on your list that meets the criteria. Um, and this may go without saying, but obviously you're not going to do this to just one cell at a time. So you can copy and paste it down however many rows you have. Now, actually, in this case, it's repeating and repeating
Hmm.
the same thing because I'm having it look for S wildcard, and it's not looking for the exact and the first thing and it's just repeating the first one that it found. Um, but if you're having it do an inexact match against the last name or whatever the data field is, you can get things. You can even get numbers that are next higher or lower. Uh, but the important thing to remember is XLOOKUP is your friend. You can use it instead of VLOOKUP, and you can and if you've never heard of VLOOKUP, don't if you use Excel, don't worry about it. Learn XLOOKUP instead, unless you're using an old Excel. If you're using the current one that's been updated, you will have XLOOKUP. If you're using a different spreadsheet tool like Google Sheets, they don't have XLOOKUP yet, and I don't know if they will because I don't know if that's something proprietary that only Microsoft can have. Um, but it is definitely a great tool to have, and we will have in a couple of days a very detailed tutorial on how to use it on tomshardware.com.
That's that is pretty intense there. The amount of capability in very little work, and
Right.
not having to know syntax, because with functions, like we saw with a function, you get code complete. IntelliSense works in Excel now, so it tells you what all the parameters are as you go, as opposed to having to do it in like the SQL language, or the thing
Right.
from uh, Microsoft's App Center diagnostic stuff, where there's a whole its own weird language with pipes and things. This doesn't require learning syntax. It teaches you as you go, which I think is pretty great.
Right, right. I mean, I think that's good of Excel, good of Microsoft to make it easy for you to see what you have to enter. Um, so and these are functions I use VLOOKUP all the time. I'll now be using this a lot, provided that it's in Excel rather than in if I'm using Excel rather than Google Sheets. I'd like to see this in Google Sheets, which I use a lot. But it just happens all the time that people are sending me data where there's disparate things, a list of articles in one, and I got to go get traffic for it in another, or a list of authors in one and a list of articles in another. Things like that. Um, it just happens all the time, and so learn these features, and you will be indispensable at your job, even even if you think that even if you don't know that think that spreadsheeting is a big part of your job, if you work for any company, you in an office, you probably are doing a fair amount of spreadsheet work, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Obviously, uh, for me, I live in databases which are very similar, which is why that's where my mind keeps going to. But without having to have all the overhead of a of a database, this gives a lot of really quick joining capabilities, and I'm already thinking of places where where this kind of thing could make a day a little better. So, and I don't even live in that space, and I'm already
Right.
placing. So yeah, I totally understand.
Because people are constantly giving you data in a spreadsheet format. I mean, if you want to like if you use Google Analytics to track web traffic, for example, that's something I do all the time.
Hmm.
And then you want to download that, it gives it to you as a spreadsheet or a CSV.
Hmm. See, and then for me, my default behavior, because my brain thinks in databases, is to import it into a database to do build applications on it. But if you're just trying to, like you said, if you're just trying to compare data real quick, this this makes that process way easy. That's a great feature. And you said you're going to be publishing a detailed how to.
Yes, we're publishing a detailed how to on Tom's Hardware. By the time you hear or see this, it may very well be there. So go to tomshardware.com.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate it. I know you had a little concern that it might be a boring topic or something, but I don't think so. I think it's a great topic. I love this, and as somebody who lives outside of spreadsheets, even I'm seeing places where this is useful. So I definitely, even I appreciate the
Yep.
information.
And if you
So
have, and I'll just throw this in. If you are not using the latest Excel or you're using a different spreadsheet app entirely, we also have an article on VLOOKUP, which works almost as well, but but is a little bit less functionality. Doesn't do the wildcards. Uh, only gets one column at a time. Things like that.
so I guess doing the one column at a time, the example that you showed that had it brought back three columns of data, you would have had to have done it three times,
3 times.
one to compare each
Yes.
each column. And okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
and in that you have to use column numbers, not column names. So you got
Oh,
to know how many columns over. The column you're searching against has to be the leftmost column on the sheet. It can't be in the middle of the sheet. So, XLOOKUP just improves upon these limitations a lot.
sure. So useful but limited, and this one removes a lot of that. Cool. Well,
Yep.
I definitely appreciate it. I am going to be messing with this while the episode is rendering tonight. So, I, uh, as always, I appreciate it, and I look forward to whatever we talk about next. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All the accessories you need to up your game on both PC and console are available from Razer. Whether you're looking for a great mouse like I use here in the studio, or a gaming keyboard, or even specialty webcams and things designed specifically for gamers, all the way up through full systems. You can find all of them at Razer, and they've always got deals running. And to find those deals and to see the stuff that's in the outlet store, all you have to do is go to f5live.tv/Razer. So the last hardware generation for gaming, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, one of the key components to sales, especially early on, had to do with price. Both Microsoft and Sony announced their prices a matter of hours apart. Microsoft announced that the Xbox One was going to sell for $499. It was going to come with the console, a controller, and a Kinect in the box. And then a few hours later, Sony announced that the PlayStation 4 would run $399, would come with the console, a controller, and have an optional $100 accessory for a PlayStation Eye and a PlayStation Move, which was Sony's equivalent of the Kinect for motion gaming, which today, outside of VR, is mostly a dead capability. And Sony made that decision at E3 that year, between the press conferences, because originally the PlayStation 4 was going to sell for $499. It was going to have the console, the controller, and the PlayStation Eye and the PlayStation Move in the box. They changed their mind because of the backlash that Microsoft received online and in the room. I remember very clearly hip hop gamers standing up and making noise at Microsoft, and then even more noise at PlayStation when they announced something different. What does that have to do with now? Well, it looks like we might have a price situation for this next generation with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, both slated to come out this holiday. And this time it looks like Sony may not be in charge. Sources inside of Sony have said that they currently, because of the availability of the components that they need for the system, that they cannot build the system for less than $450. And they are afraid that between now and the beginning of manufacturing, that price could go up even more, which means that if they take just the same minimal margin from the last generation, that the console is going to have to sell for at least $470 and probably more, just to be able to offset the likelihood of those component prices going up again after the console releases, which puts it exactly where the last generation didn't want to be, in that $500 price point, especially when you consider that even the PS4 Pro right now is only $399, which is the price that the original PlayStation 4 launched at 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever it was. So that could cause Sony some problems this generation.
Yeah. So my question is, why would oh, I mean, it's a strange leak that they leaked out what it's going to cost them to make. But if it costs them $450 to make, then is that's including labor, but does that include all the other things that go into selling something?
Yes.
Marketing costs, research, funding the research and development, all of that stuff, or are we only talking about the cost of the physical manufacturer? Because there's a lot more to something than just that.
No, that's the expected price cost all around. In the last generation, for the $399, it was $381, I think, was the initial, essentially all total cost per unit. So there was a very slim margin on it, which they knew after the console had been out for a while and the marketing costs came down and all those things. Because obviously the launch of a device is way more expensive than 6 months, 12 months, 3 years in. That they knew that would come down. And their fears in this case are that it's going to go up. It's going to go the wrong way.
Yeah, I could. Well, I mean, we know that there are things that are going to be affected. Like a lot of things that were dropping in price toward the end of the year are expected to go up in price. So RAM and storage, we expect to actually go up in price. So those are big movers for the margin of something like the PlayStation. Another problem
especially when you're
is
going into it with the expectation of using standard components, as opposed to
Yeah.
putting together the cost of what it would be to have a special production line for a thing just for you. Because that's
I think using standard components is more helpful though, because then you have there ought to be greater efficiencies of scale when you have components that other people are using also.
for sure. But with the other way around, if you're putting together the production lines, you have guaranteed availability because you've already contracted the production on that equipment, as opposed to, if you're using the same, DRAM for the PlayStation and for the Galaxy S20, then that you're fighting over a supply. You know what I mean? It may not cost as the cost may be better, but the availability could be, and the price fluctuations will exist.
I mean, it certainly gives them the flexibility on some of these components to possibly source from a lot of different vendors, which
True.
we've seen can have mixed results, but most manufacturers do source from different vendors.
True.
So keep that in mind. If one SSD company doesn't have the supply, or they're charging too much, Sony can go to another one.
Sure. If Samsung's prices go up or availability, they can switch to Intel or whoever, swap out components underneath. That's true. As opposed to the other situation where you're all built around a particular custom piece, and you've got to wait until a manufacturer can produce them again, which may or may not be. Because if you're contracting with Samsung to produce them, their manufacturing availability may vary. So yeah, that makes sense. The processors for the Xbox Series X is kind of where my brain has been on this, and they're contracting with AMD for a very customized system processor, as opposed to in the past they've used more standard system processors, not the video, but for the systems they were more standard components, and this time it's a very specialized component, so they'd have to wait for AMD to be able to produce them again.
I think when a new console generation comes out, you kind of expect to pay through the nose for it. And people who buy a PlayStation 5 or the new Xbox,
that's how bad the name is.
I don't even want to say the name of it
just now.
The Xbox. No, it's like the Xbox Series. I know what it is. Xbox Series X, but it's like very easy to confuse with the Xbox One X.
And it reminds me a lot of the Windows Phone Series 7.
Yes. Well, the Apple Watch Edition, right?
I had forgotten about that one.
Wasn't the Apple Watch was originally called the Apple Watch Edition? Yes, a watch edition of what? Of Apple?
Don't ask.
It's
mind your business.
The grammar makes no sense. Yeah. Who knows?
But yeah, you're definitely going to pay.
All we know is that
a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I guess the advice is, if you like to be on the bleeding edge, with your console, you're going to pay more than people usually pay. I don't know what we would consider a usual price for console. Right now, the entry level cost for Xbox or PlayStation is about $200 for the low level systems,
and there
maybe
is
three to.
I got an email this week about somebody was running a deal on brand new sealed Xbox One S for $130 just to. So I mean, for $130, you
is
can
that
get
the one without
a
drive?
Nope.
But that's probably the one without the drive, right?
Nope.
There's one that's digital. Wasn't the digital only one that doesn't take Blu-rays? The all digital one? Okay.
Nope. It was a standard one, Xbox One S for 130. Which, I mean,
Well, people are trying
when you're
to get rid of it.
talking about pricing, right? Right now you can get a
Yeah.
brand new Xbox One S for 130 bucks, and here we are talking about the next generation console possibly launching at $500. So I think that's the best example we could possibly give is that's a huge price difference, and like you said, if you're gonna live on the bleeding edge, you're gonna get cut. It's the way it
Right.
works.
But but let's just briefly keep in mind that a gaming PC that's $500, you know, is a very low end gaming PC.
Yeah, for
If you
sure.
want the top of the line gaming PC, you're spending thousands of dollars. So $500 for a console looks pretty cheap in comparison.
Sure. Yeah, and that's something I always try to remind people because the last time a console came out, I was still in retail. So, I, there is that situation where what you're looking at is far less than you'd pay for a gaming PC. So, anyway, obviously all of this is off the record. The people who spoke under the condition of anonymity because they weren't allowed to talk about it. But it'll definitely be interesting to see where this goes, because normally Sony by February has the pricing and the retail price figured out, and right now they have no idea what the PS5 is going to sell for, which has never happened with these things before. So that's the thing that makes this interesting. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by RiffTrax. Make fun of movies or let these guys do it for you, because that's what they do. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities like Bounty Tracker. The way it works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, play it along with your Amazon Prime, DVD, Netflix, Hulu, wherever the movie happens to exist, and laugh. They also have some truly old school odd movies or things that have been in one of their live events, and the entire movie is available. Plus, they have short films like Bicycle Safety Camp. Oh my god, it looks terrible. Which are those educational films that you used to watch in school and things like that. And they make those fun. And to find out these short films, the feature films, and all of the content that's available, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. Oh my goodness, it was obviously an SD. Terrible. Anyway, so kind of a public service announcement. Know that over the next couple of years, the price of a .com registration is going to go up, and it's all because of the monopoly that is ICANN. If you don't know what ICANN is, there are actually a couple of organizations to know about. The first is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, known as ICANN, who is responsible for overseeing the entire domain name system. So they decide what the top level domains are going to be. You may remember over the last couple of years, we saw a huge explosion in weird suffixes like .reviews and .xyz and all kinds of strange suffixes on websites that hadn't existed before. That's what ICANN does. And then they decide who oversees them. In the case of .com, it's VeriSign, who I think we probably all recognize as the company from the early 2000s whose logo was at the bottom of websites that said, "This site is secure," even though it wasn't HTTPS.
Yes. Yep.
Same company. They are responsible for overseeing .com, kind of. On top of all of that is the National Telecommunications and Information Administration that legally oversees the rules and regulations on .com. Now, a lot of things. Suffice it to say, the NTIA, which is that last one, the ICANN asked them if they can get it. It's funny. If they could allow VeriSign to increase the price on .com registrations about the same time that they took the cap off of .org registrations, and they went through the roof. The NTIA said yes, so VeriSign now has the ability to increase the price of a .com 7% every year for the next decade. They then have to hold it steady for 2, and then have at least 3 more years where they can raise it another 7% per year, which they will. There's no doubt that they're at least for the first couple of years until there's a lot of backlash, they will, which means that over the next decade, the price of a .com is probably going to double. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot. Right now the average price is about $7, and the expected end price of this 7% on 7% on 7% is somewhere in the 14 to 16 range. When all is said and done, if you're just registering a single domain, okay, $7 a year. But when you own tons of domains, that can be a lot. But here's the thing that matters. There's one organization that oversees all of this, and they make the decisions on what you pay, and there's nothing that can be done about it on the basic web. Obviously, we know that secondary web networks exist. The best known, of course, is Tor, but that's because of all the bad press that it gets. There are others, though, and there are companies that are trying to make the decentralized networks more accessible. It's possible that with this type of thing and the outrage machine that is the internet gets wind of this, you may see some more movement in that space. What do you think, Avram?
I mean, the question is, can you successfully run a business with a domain that is not .com? Because it seems like most of the important words for .com have been taken, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to find a name. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been people like, yeah, we want to start a new tech website. And it's like, okay, can you find a word that hasn't been taken for .com? It's not easy. So the question then is,
I'll
if
tell you
you
how you
make
do
your
it.
domain,
I'll tell you how you do it.
yeah,
There's a website called namebounce.com where you put in your keywords and it tells you available websites.
oh, you mean
It's
ones that are available to buy?
Yes. It's amazing.
Great. Well, that's good to know.
I
But
got a
I
press
think
release about it about 3 months ago, and I've been using it like crazy ever since.
that's fantastic. But there's still a name shortage
Sure.
for .coms.
Which is why
So
we've
yeah,
seen
there could be
certain industries have started to take ownership of secondary top level domains. .io for software products, .ai for obviously for AI products, but even then they tend to also try to have the .com to go along with it if they can, or at least something similar.
right. Right, because you kind of, that's the thing, right? You kind of you the worry is that people will go to the .com even if you tell them something else,
Yep.
right? I mean, there's a lot of people who own .org and .net domains, and they have the same problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people assume that it's .com. So if I start a new service, a new company, and I call it, something .pizza, people are still going to go to .com because that's what they think. That's how they're mentally conditioned. So
Absolutely.
how do you condition people? How do you condition people to not type in, um, the
Whatever.com.
the thing? whatever.com, right? You have to mentally condition people for that. That would be, it's almost like mentally conditioning people for 8-digit phone numbers or something.
Right.
So it's hard to do, because there's a lot there's a ton of new top level domains out there, but .com is the one that everybody comes back to. So so it's an interesting question. I think what we need to do is invent more words in the English language so more people can there's more .com possibilities. But like some of these top level domains are kind of funny. I mean, there's .pizza,
Mm-hmm.
.yoga, .actor, .lawyer, like just like ridiculous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if I tell you that I've registered Avram dot cool, or which I think is the actual one,
I think so.
right? You're still going to go to Avram. You may still go to Avram.com, which is owned by some other dude named Avram, and you might be like, "Oh, you look so much older than I thought you were," stuff like that, because you see his picture, right?
Right.
So that's the problem, is people are conditioned. You can write it
Yep.
down for them, um,
And it still won't matter.
to go to .com.
Donald Norman has a great book on about that called The Design of Everyday Things, where he talks about there are certain things that as human beings we couldn't change today if we wanted to, because nobody would figure out how to use a teapot if it was shaped differently. Certain things like that have been around for so long. And in this case, it's not the length of time, it's the fact that it's been around and been the primary thing since the beginning of the technology. That .com is the thing. And it's hard to get people to stray from that. I mean, outside of the software industry where IO and AI are kind of ubiquitous at this point, but you're not going to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
unless
no,
unless
I
you
mean,
specifically know.
to be fair, this is purely, I don't have empirical data to back up what I'm saying. This is my gut feeling. But there are a lot of people who don't go to web addresses at all, and they search for things in Google.
True.
So it is quite possible that if you come up ahead for your own name in Google, people will find you that way. But I think it becomes most problematic when there is a .com with the same name, and if there was, you probably would have registered for it anyway, right? So someone else has it, and then you're trying to convince them to go to your version,
Right.
and that's when people get confused.
And you got to spend a ton of money trying to optimize for your keywords and all kinds of things. It makes me think of on Parks and Rec, Jerry, to go to Google, would go to Yahoo and search for "Take Me to Google" or something like that.
That's kind of funny, because we found people who search for. I know there have been people who search for Yahoo or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I think if you go to Google and search for Google, it just explodes.
That's what
The internet will explode.
that's what they told Jen Barber on the IT crowd.
Yes, that's why I'm telling you that. That's what I'm telling you. For those who aren't familiar, that's from the IT Crowd show, which is old but highly recommended.
Indeed, it's a wonderful show. Anyway, it'll be interesting. Obviously, VeriSign's going to do it for the first year or two, because domain registrars have already started sending out emails to their customers warning them that price increases are coming. There's nothing they can do about it. So they're definitely going to take advantage of it unless there's some sort of a internet outrage.
So if you own a .com domain, can you save money now by just renewing it for more years before the prices go up?
Yes.
So, newsflash, do it.
Absolutely. If you intend on keeping it and you can, renew it now at the prices that they are today. For sure.
And now, talk to you about it. I'm going to do it.
This week's DRM not included on F5 Live is probably powered by Amazon Prime. You know you get free shipping, but there's a lot of stuff on top of it that you get, like Amazon Prime Music, which gives you several million tracks available to stream for free. Amazon Prime Video, which gives you TV, movies, documentaries, and more, both original and licensed content available as part of your subscription. And my favorite, Twitch Prime, which gives you the ability to financially support the content creator of your choice with one free subscription per month, plus free games for you. And they change every month, just like you get on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, Epic Game Store. We're seeing this in a lot of places now, and they are yours to keep. We've got links so you can find all of these features because they're not always the easiest to find. Plus, if you're not already subscribed, we have a free 30-day free trial, and all of that is available by going to f5live.tv/prime. So speaking of subscriptions, we have talked over the last year and a half, 2 years about the kind of flex against the unified app stores from a variety of sources. The most famous is probably when Epic decided not to use the Google Play Store to put Fortnite onto Android. That was a big deal. On the other side of things, there's the in-app purchase battle, which has kind of been championed by Netflix, who in 2018, I believe, removed the ability to sign up for a new account from their mobile apps on both iOS and Android, because to do so would mean processing the payment through Apple or Google, which incurs a between 15 and 30% surcharge. So your $10 subscription to Netflix, all of a sudden they get $7 instead, which when you're trying to balance your books does not work out, especially with Netflix creating so much original content. Why are we talking about this? Because YouTube is officially joining Netflix in this battle. Interesting, because YouTube is owned by Google, and Google is one of the targets of this battle, but we're going to ignore that for now, because YouTube has sent out emails to all of the YouTube TV subscribers who have subscribed through the Apple App Store, letting them know that as of March 13th, whenever their next renewal happens, their subscription will be canceled. And if they want to maintain their subscription, they will have to, after the cancellation, they will have to re-up it through the website and not through the App Store, because they will no longer support it. Now, that is exactly what Netflix did in 2018. They sent out an almost identical email to their subscribers, except they explained why, because, again, Netflix has kind of been holding the banner on this one. They explained why they were doing it. Google didn't say why, just said that it was going to happen, but it's easy to read between the lines. They don't want to give Apple, who in this particular case is their competitor, Android versus iOS, 30% of the YouTube revenue, which makes sense to me, especially when you take into consideration Google already has a payment system in place. They already have a membership structure, and they had to add a second one for payments through the App Store. So I get it. It's more overhead, and you have to pay for it. No part of it makes things better.
Right. So I'm going to show you my ignorance of Apple App Store policy, and I hope the audience and you will forgive me for this, but perhaps some in our audience don't know the answer either. Why can't you use the app to pay with your credit card rather than doing it as a quote unquote in-app purchase that hits your Apple account?
Not allowed. Apple will not approve the app. It is not allowed in the store. If a subscription is initiated through the application, it has to be processed through the Apple App Store. No other choice. You cannot allow your own third-party payments. It all has to be done through the App Store. And that was a policy that went into place
So
as 100%. It's the only option in like 2017, and then in 2018, Netflix started their banner waving.
right. So do you think that Apple, seeing this happen, could block them in some other way? Like, okay, now we're making it harder for you to pay because you have to go do it on the web, which is, to me, not a big deal, but you're still having to go outside the app.
Yeah.
Um, could Apple, seeing that, hey, they're getting around our tax this way, ban Netflix and YouTube TV from the App Store?
I mean, technically they could, and that's part of the problem, right? Is that especially on iOS, the App Store is a monopoly. It's it's the only option. We know on Android there's Google Play, there's the Amazon App Store. Huawei just built their own since they're not allowed to use Google's anymore. So there's other options for installing apps, including side loading, like Fortnite did. But for a standard consumer on an iPhone, there's only one way to put an app on it, other than
Right, which
Test Flight, which is still Apple and still has to conform to the rules.
which makes you wonder about, and I could rant about the problem with app stores all day, especially when I'm trying to build apps that I want to only distribute to a handful of people, and I've got to have it approved by someone, but that's another story. But if this could kind of trigger an antitrust, I mean, in previous years, this sort of thing could trigger an antitrust investigation
There are suits.
because they're leveraging their position, their monopoly position, and running the store to extract whatever they want from competitors, such as Netflix and YouTube. So,
Absolutely.
I assume now with this workaround, it's not so bad, but um, but if for some reason Apple were to, I don't know, penalize them for doing it, and just kick Netflix out of the store. Well, you know what? If they were to kick Netflix out of the store, Apple would see a revolt from its own users
For sure.
because people want Netflix.
Yeah. And that would be the move that would, because there's I think 3 big lawsuits against Apple involving their monopoly position on the App Store. I think one of them was from Epic Games, but if they were to actually remove one of the top 10 apps from the store over something like that, guaranteed by the end of the day there would be an antitrust investigation in place. It was bad
Yeah.
enough. It was bad enough when they banned Google Voice from the store because it, quote, duplicated native functionality. It had a keypad, a dial pad, and so
Right.
they rejected Google Voice. That was bad enough and triggered the beginning of an antitrust, and that's the reason why they backed off on it. But if they were to kick Netflix out of the store for making you sign up in the browser, oh, it wouldn't be the end of the day before the government would have an antitrust suit opened on them.
Yeah, fair enough. That this has to happen. I can't blame YouTube and I can't blame Netflix because they can't have one profit margin for Apple and one profit margin for everybody else.
Right. Absolutely. Because it just makes the price for everybody go up if a subset is having a 30% surcharge on it. Everybody's price goes up because of it. So it was either raise everybody's price for YouTube TV or take it out of subscribing on the App Store. And this is way easier for, I think, everybody. Because, all right, so I got to go do it once. I got to go give my credit card information to Google in one time, then I never have to think about it again. or everybody pays more. It
Yeah.
seems like a no-brainer. So it is important to note on that story that if you are one of those people whose YouTube TV account is going to be canceled, and you sign up via the web, you'll still be able to use the iOS and Apple Mac apps once you re-up. So anyway, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. If you didn't and would like to in the future, Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, f5live.tv/join us. Interestingly, there's an example of a non.com, although we do own the .com, and it does the same thing. To go back to our previous story. So f5live.tv/join us, Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you can't join us live, that's okay. plugkitslive.com/subscribe. You can see all of the shows there. And of course, our new partner, WMLD Radio 88.1 in the New York market. You can listen to us Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, either on the radio or on their website. So there's lots of ways that you can listen to us. If you listened and wanted to see what we talked about, especially during the Pilch Point, you can always check out the website, plugkitslive.com, and there under the shows you can see all of our shows, and you can watch the video and see the demonstration that Avram did and things like that. And with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next time. Ciao.